Okay folks, we are getting ready to install this 6-stage RO water filtration system. This is for an under sink install. Okay, so we've got everything unboxed now. So as you can see, we've got our main holding tank. Okay, we've got these 3 filter sets. So we've got 1 is your sediment filter, 2 is your granular activated carbon, and 3 is your block activated carbon. Okay, we've got tightening tools for these different sized canisters. Okay, we've got our main housing unit. This is basically what everything's going to be attached to. The first 3 stages will be attached right down here. Okay, and then we've got some additional 3 more stages. So this is our 6-stage reverse osmosis. We've got our reverse osmosis membrane chamber here. Okay, we've got a bag of different hardware, all types of mounting hardware here. Here's your hardware for your faucet, and here's the faucet itself. This will be what's installed on the top side of the sink. And then we've got a few different water hoses that we're going to use to connect everything together. And then, of course, very importantly, we have our warranty registry card and our user manual here, and this is what's going to step us through putting all of this together. So that's what you got, and we're going to go ahead and dive right into putting this all together and installing it under a sink. Okay guys, so the first thing we're going to do is turn off the cold water supply. Okay, so we're going to shut that all the way off. And then we need to release the pressure from this line by opening the faucet real quick. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the faucet. Okay, that released any pressure that was in there. And now you are going to have some water that dumps out of this as soon as you open it. So we're getting ready to open this, and we've already got our towel down here to catch the water, and I think I'm also going to get a bowl here to put the hose in to catch all of the water. Okay, we've got our bowl in place, and I'm going to use some channel locks to go ahead and open this line. Okay, and now that we've got our cold water adapter installed here, all we have to do is plug in our red 1/2-inch water hose to the quick connect. And to do this, it's really simple. We're just going to firmly push it in and then pull up on it a little bit, and that's it. It's installed. That's all it takes. So now we have our feed water adapter completely installed. Next, we are going to install our faucet. Okay, my sink already has a hole pre-drilled, and we are going to have to use this plate to make it fit. Okay, we're just going to feed it onto the end here. Now we've got our nice big flat washer here. That's going to go on next. Okay, and then we're just going to set this here, and the rest of the work we have to go under the sink for. Okay guys, so now from the bottom we're going to secure the faucet in place. Bear with me while I get under the sink here. So this faucet's not really intended for a hole as big as what I've got here. So I'm going to improvise by using the wall mount bracket. And this is supposed to be, if you don't want to put it on your sink, you can just install the faucet on a wall. But I'm basically going to improvise and use it as a large washer. Okay, and just like that. Now, to show you, it does come with a hard plastic washer and a rubber washer. I'm going to use both in addition to this wall bracket here. I'm going to feed all of this onto my faucet. Okay, and then we're going to put the silver nut on here. Okay, there we go, and I'm just going to hand tighten this about as tight as I can get it with my hand, and we may come back later and tighten it with some pliers if I feel like I need to. Got some Teflon tape we're going to actually put this on first. Okay, it's always good to use this Teflon. Water likes to drip out of any fitting that it can, so if we can use this Teflon everywhere, this is going to help us keep everything nice and tight and dry. Okay, so we've got our Teflon tape on there, and now I just got to grab our hardware and our blue water hose. Okay, so here we go. I've got the blue hose here. Okay, and step number one for the hose is some fittings, which I'm trying to get worked out here. Okay, so first you've got this fitting here. This is your plastic insert, so we're just going to push that into the end of the tube. Okay, and then you've got your metal nut. This comes next. The tapered end goes on first, just like that. And now we've got our plastic collar. It goes on next. Okay, so your setup should look just like that. Okay, and then we're just going to simply push this into here. We're going to slide it up. And we're just going to hand tighten it for now. We'll come back with pliers and tighten this up a little bit better here in just a minute. Okay, so now we're just going to tighten up this bolt real quick. I've got somebody on the top side holding the faucet in place so it won't move. And I think that ought to do it. That's pretty tight there, so that's good to go. Okay, so we've got the faucet put in and all tightened up. So you can see if I try to turn the base, it's not moving anywhere. It's very solid. So this base shouldn't move once it's tight, but the top should still rotate freely, which is a very nice feature. So there we go. We've got our RO water faucet fully installed. Alright, next up we're going to install the drain saddle. Okay, and it says it's best to choose a horizontal pipe to reduce the dripping noise. So that's what we've done. I was actually going to put it up here on this vertical pipe, but after I read that, I've decided to use this horizontal pipe. And we're just going to drill a 1/4 inch hole in this pipe. Just like that. Okay, and then it comes with this foam patch here. Okay, so we don't need the middle, we're gonna pop the middle out, and we're gonna take the backing off of the adhesive. Okay, and we're just gonna position this right over our new drain hole. So we'll put the back piece on. We'll set the front piece on and make sure we're lined up with our hole, and we are. You can see how we can see down that hole. You can see that you've got your hole lined up so that when we try to slide the tubing in here, it'll work just fine. So it says to cut a 45-degree angle on this tube. So I've got a sharp pair of scissors here. We're just going to cut about a 45-degree angle. I think it's close enough. Okay, and then we're just going to feed this straight down in here. Just push it all the way in. And actually, I think I'm going to loosen this right now so that we can make sure that the tube is going all the way into our drainage pipe. Okay, so we're gonna push that tube. There we go. Now we know that it's going into the drain. Okay, so I've got that pushed all the way in. So I'm gonna tighten these back down. Okay, and then we're just gonna come in here with a screwdriver and tighten these down. Okay, and now that's on there nice and tight. So that shouldn't be leaking anytime soon. I might have to loosen these fittings a little bit But I'm going to turn this whole tube to where this black tube is a little bit more out of my way. Alright, so we're just going to loosen that. I'm going to just kind of spin this in this direction. That way the tube is going out back. And it's got this nice quick lock connection. That is in there. That's in there real solid. So that's good stuff right there. Let me just tighten these back up so they're not leaking. And there we have it. We've got our drain installed. Next up is installing the vertical filters, stages 1 through 3. Your kit should come with 3 O-rings. Okay, these are going to be important. Don't forget those. And first we're going to start with stage 1. So this one, it doesn't matter which direction the filter is installed. We're going to go ahead and take the wrap off, and then you'll see in the bottom of this there's a little notch sticking up that the filter has to plug into. Make sure that it's seated properly on that notch. Okay, and then we're going to turn this up. Okay, we're going to use our clearish color gasket for the clear container, and it sits right here on top. Okay, it should just sit right there. You should have a second gasket down here. You're going to want to make sure that's there. Filter straight up and down. Looks like everything's lined up. Once you've got it on by hand, you're going to want to use your big wrench and just tighten it down about 1/4 of a turn. Okay, you don't want to over tighten these or it could cause it to leak. So we're just going to tighten this about 1/4 of a turn there. Not even 1/4 of a turn. It feels nice and tight. We're going to leave it like that unless for some reason it leaks when we hook it up, but I think that's going to be good. You don't want to over tighten these. Okay. Next up is stage 2. Okay, this is our UDF filter. This does matter which way it's installed, okay? So the side with the white gasket, that's going to go up. The side that's just blue, that's going to go down. So we're going to go ahead and take the wrapping off here. Okay. We're just going to set this in here. You just want to make sure it's centered up in there. It centers up pretty easy. Don't forget your gaskets, okay? This just sits right in here on top. Super important. Gotta have that gasket. Alright, there's stage 2 is on. Now we've got stage 3, our CTO filter. Okay, and I believe this one does not matter the direction that it's installed either. It's the same on both ends. Okay. Again, we're just going to set this in here. Just make sure it lines up with the notch in the bottom. Okay, we're going to do our super important step of putting our gasket on. Just make sure it's sitting on top there the way it's supposed to. We have not yet tightened these white ones with our wrench, so we're going to go ahead and pop our wrench on here. And there you have it. That's what it looks like when it's all put together. Next, we're going to install the valve on top of our holding tank. So for this, we're going to want to do about 5 to 10 turns of Teflon clockwise. Okay, make sure you don't have any Teflon covering the top of the valve here. Okay, and then we're just going to hand tighten this piece on. Okay, so that feels about as tight as we're going to want that to go. And for this, we're going to install our yellow hose on the quick fitting, and for that you just push it in snugly. You can see when you try to pull it out, it ain't going nowhere. And then we're just going to put our locking collar on here. and that's going to prevent this tube from accidentally pulling out. So that's in there nice and good. So now our holding tank is ready to go, and we can go ahead and just put this under our sink somewhere, wherever it'll fit. Okay, the next step is to install the RO membrane, or the reverse osmosis membrane. Okay, and to do that, we're going to install it into this canister here. The first thing we have to do is disconnect the hose from it so that we can open the lid. So to do that, you're just going to pull out the blue clip, set it aside, and then use your fingernail to push down the center inside part of this white collar, and you should be able to just pull the hose right out, no problem. Okay, and now we're just going to unclip this. It just kind of pulls out. And from here we can unscrew the lid. We opened the end that has the rubber washers on it, just with some scissors, right, just like that. Okay, and you don't want to touch this filter. It's very sensitive. Okay, so we're going to handle it with the bag. The side with the gaskets goes in first, so we're going to leave it in the bag and literally push it in without touching it with our hands. Okay, and once that's in, push it down in there tight. It should sit all the way down in there, and it's going to take a little bit of force to push that in. Once it's all the way in, you can discard this bag. We'll go ahead and put our top back on. Once you've got this hand tightened, you're going to use the smaller wrench. We're going to put this on here, and we're going to tighten it up with the wrench about 1/4 of a turn. You don't want to over tighten it, or you can create leaks. Okay, and for now we're actually going to leave this disconnected. We'll hook this back up at system start. So for now I'm just going to go ahead and clip this back into place. Make sure everything's sitting here, and then we'll worry about reconnecting this hose a little bit later. Okay, now we're getting to the fun part. We are going to go ahead and slide the system in here under the sink. Okay. You can mount this to the wall if you want to, but it's perfectly okay to just leave it sitting in here as long as it has a good solid base. Shouldn't fall over or anything like that, so that's not a problem. Alright, and basically now we're just going to hook up our various different tubes to the end of this. Alrighty, time to hook up all of our hoses. It's really easy because they've got it color coded. So right here, this is where the red hose is going to go. This is from your city water. Okay, this right here is where the yellow hose is going to go. This is for the holding tank. Right here, this is where your blue hose is going to go. This goes out to your faucet at your sink. And then back in here, if we fold these guys out of the way, you can see this plug here, and that is for your drainage pipe. And we still have this disconnected because when we start the system and flush it, we're actually going to run this into a bucket for a little while. So we're still going to leave this one disconnected for now. So let's go ahead and hook up our blue hose first. So to do this, we're just going to pull the clip out, push this middle part down, and you can pull the plug out just like that. Okay, and then we're just going to take our blue hose, push it all the way down in there as far as you can get it, and then we're going to just put our safety clip back in place. Okay, so our blue hose is hooked up. Let's go ahead and hook up our black hose while we've got all this pulled back. So again, we are going to, sorry, let me figure out a way to do this where my hands aren't in the way too much. So if you can see this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the blue clip off. Okay, I'm going to use my fingernail to push down this middle part, and then we can pull out the black plug. Okay, once again, we're going to take our black hose, we're going to push it into the quick connect as far as it'll go. Okay, and then we're going to put our black clip or our blue clip back in place here. Okay, now we've got our drain connected. Let's go ahead and hook up our red hose. This is the city tap water line. Again, we're going to pull out the blue clip here. Okay, we're going to push up this white collar and we're going to pull the red plug out. Okay, we're just going to push our red hose up in there as far as it'll go. Put our blue clip back in. Now we've got our city water line connected. And last but certainly not least is the hose for our holding tank. So once again, we are, if I can get this to where you can see it, we're going to pull the blue clip out. Okay, we're going to push down on this edge and we're going to pull the yellow plug out. We're going to push our yellow tube in, again as far as you can go. Sometimes it takes a little bit of force, but it should slide right in there. And we're going to put our blue safety clip back in place. Slide this up against the wall, take a look, see how it looks, and there we go. We're all connected here. And now it's time to do a system flush. Okay, now it's time for us to do our first system flush, and the point here is that our activated charcoal is going to have a lot of black dust in it, and we do not want that to get into our osmosis membrane. So right now we've got the red hose still disconnected from the osmosis membrane chamber. We've got it pointed into this pitcher here, okay, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure our tank, our storage tank, is shut off. So I'm going to turn the valve towards perpendicular so our tank is shut off, and we're going to go ahead and turn on the water supply, and we're going to go ahead and let this flush out until the water runs clear. So here we go. You can see it filling up. Still filling up the various chambers, and here we go. Oh yeah, and you can see that water is very black. Now it's running pretty clear. I'm going to go ahead and cut the water pressure. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and dump out this pitcher full. And we're just going to keep doing that until the water runs clear. Let's dump that one out. Okay, and let's go for another round. Turn the water back on. Okay, and just for good measure, I filled up one more whole entire 5-gallon bucket, just to make sure we got all of that dust out. You can see how nice and clear the water is. So we're definitely going to call this good on the flushing, and we're going to go ahead and hook this up and get it ready to use for the first time. Okay guys, and now that we've got the RO filter all the way back under the sink, where we want it to be, we're going to do the final hose connect. We're going to reconnect our RO membrane. We're just going to push this right into this quick connect. Just give it a little bit of force. It should go right in. Okay, and then pull out on it a little bit to raise that white part. And then we're just going to slide the collar in. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and pressurize the system. The tank is still off, okay? You want to have the tank still off right now because we're still going to flush the system a little bit. So here's the tank. You can see that the switch is perpendicular, okay? That's off. If it was lined up with the tube, it would be on. So we're going to leave that off for now. Okay, so with the holding tank still turned off, we're going to go ahead and turn on our water supply. We're going to this is pressurizing the system. You want to check it real good, make sure there's no leaks. I don't see any leaks. It's a little wet under here from when we were flushing the system. It kind of sprayed all over the place when I was switching out the pitchers, but the system itself is not leaking. So that's very good. And now we're going to go up here above the sink. And we're going to turn on our faucet for the first time. And it should take a little bit of time for the water to make its way all the way through the system. I think the instructions said about 5 minutes. Okay, so it took about 3-4 minutes, but now the water is trickling out of the faucet. And so what we're doing now is we're just flushing the filters. The instructions say to let this trickle for about 15 minutes. So that's what we're going to do. Okay guys, so we've been letting the system flush for a little while now. The instruction book says 15 minutes. I did 25 just to be safe. So now that it's been running, we're going to go ahead and shut it off. Okay, and now we're going to turn on the shutoff valve for the tank for the first time. So we're going to go ahead and turn this to the on position. Okay, the tank is on now, and the directions say that it could take 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours for this tank to completely fill up the first time. So depending on the temperature of your water and the pressure coming into your house. So now that this is on, we're just going to wait a couple hours to let this tank pressurize, and then we will flush the tank after that. Alright guys, it's been about 2 hours now. I believe the tank is fully pressurized, so we're going to go ahead and purge the tank for the first time. And wow, you can see that's very good water pressure coming out of there. So the nice thing about this sink head is that you can turn it whatever direction's convenient. So you don't want to drink the first tank full of water. So we're just going to drain the whole tank full, and you're just going to let this run until the water pressure reduces to a trickle. And once it's gone down to a trickle, that's when you know the tank is emptied, and then we can go ahead and shut off the faucet, let it repressurize, and then your system is ready to use. Okay, and that took about 5 minutes on the dot, and you can see we're down to a very slow trickle now. So that's how you know that the tank has finished emptying. So we can go ahead and turn the faucet back off, and we can see the whole system is down here, and you can see we're at about almost 80 psi on this system, and that tank is refilling, and after it refills, then it's good to go. Okay guys, so I've got the system pulled out to where we can take a look at it here. So I cleaned up all the cables inside here with some zip ties. The zip ties are not included. Okay, I purchased those myself. It's all hooked up. You can see it is currently filling the tank at like 76 psi. When the tank is full, a switch will flip and this will go to 0. So that's how you can know if it's actively filling or not. Okay, I've left myself enough slack to where I can pull this system all the way out from under the sink if I need to service it or change the filters or whatever. Okay, you're going to want to check for leaks in this system every day for the first 2 weeks after you've installed it, just to make sure everything's good. Nothing's leaking on the tank back here. You can see it is a pretty good sized tank back in there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and tuck this back under the sink and we'll take a look at what it looks like when it's all the way in there. Okay, and that's what it looks like all the way in under the sink. I've decided instead of tucking it way back in here, I'm just actually going to leave this right up front here so it's easy for me to check every day for the first 2 weeks to make sure we don't have any leaks. Fits in here real nice. It's actually not nearly as crowded as I thought it was going to be. All the way finished. So I can even have this side completely closed and we can just access the whole thing from this one door. We can access the tank back behind it. So very nice filter, and as soon as that tank is done filling, as soon as this drops to 0 and lets us know that the tank is done, we're going to fill up our first glass of water and see how fast it can fill up a glass. So we've had our 6-stage reverse osmosis water purification system installed for a couple of days now, and I just want to show you the final results now that all of the extra air has gotten out of the system and it's fully pressurized. Just how quick this fills up. And this is a big glass. I don't have small hands. I don't know how many ounces this is exactly, but this is a big glass of water, and you can see that filled up really quickly. And it's crystal clear now. So the cloudiness that you see on the first couple of days, that's just from micro bubbles. It's perfectly safe to drink. It just looks cloudy because there's tons and tons of little micro bubbles inside of it. After your system's been running for a few days, those micro bubbles go away. You can still see there's a few micro bubbles if we really shine the light on it, and that'll be even less and less as time goes on, but it's already crystal clear and it's very good tasting drinking water, and we can feel good putting this in our expensive appliances like our humidifiers, our coffee maker, our ice maker, and know that we're not putting a bunch of extra minerals or heavy metals or rust or other things like that into our expensive home appliances. And it's excellent drinking water. It's really nice to have a drinking water tap right here at your sink that you can access very easily and quickly. So great product, and very super happy with the install.